There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we'd stand, always had my back, my guardian soldier. Team put together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, 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 ride. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. Keep on holding strong. United we stand, divided we fall. Together we belong. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper. I am my brother's keeper.
Welcome back, Moto fans. The much anticipated World Supercross Championship kicked off this morning in Buenos Aires. So we're going to do a bit of a review for you guys. Before we get into it, a big thank you to our partners for this episode: Wonthaggi Motorcycles and Power Equipment, Fastline Suspension, Wolf Building Compliance, and the November sponsors of our Motocross and Supercross wall calendars, 443 Photography and Moto Cred. Keep an ear out later in the podcast to find out a bit more about the great range of products and services that these guys offer as well. Now, joining me on the line, it's been a little while, more than Motos as Minerds. Welcome back to the podcast, mate.
Cheers for having me, Pete. It's been a few months, but glad to be back.
Yeah, but I've been seeing you and catching up at the events, which is always cool.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been back to a couple of events you've been at lately, back to Supercross. So no, it's been fun.
Yeah. So anyway, this is all about the World Supercross Championship, but I do have some questions about the Aussie stuff, which we'll get to a little bit later. You know, it was the first round. It's under new management with Tom Burwell heading up the series now as CEO. It's a little bit different. You know, the last couple of years it's been, in some eyes, hit and miss, and sort of they've really amped up the PR, the build up to this year's series. But you know, round one's in the books now. So, what was your initial impression?
A little bit indifferent. Obviously, I wasn't planning on watching it live, but we happened to get home a little earlier than planned this morning. I flicked on to 7 Plus, and it was just starting. So I thought, I'll sit back and have a watch. Yeah, it's just indifferent. It was just a little, it's to say, not as exciting as I thought it was going to be. And it's hard to say not exciting because the racing was good. There's some great riders out there. There was plenty of storylines that you could look at. But I don't know. There's just something about the production that made it a little. You're sort of just waiting for something to happen. Yeah,
it was flat. For me, if I had to sort of sum it up in one word, it was underwhelming. That was how I felt about it.
Yeah, exactly. It was just lacking something from the camera angles. You couldn't really hear much crowd noise, and from everything you've seen after the race and before the race, the crowd was so into it, so you didn't really get that feeling of the atmosphere there. And the commentary, it was just hard to listen to at times. There's some great commentators there, but they sort of talked over each other. Ralph was just yelling into the mic either non-stop or at the most random times, just cutting Blair or just cutting them off just randomly and shouting over the top. It was hard to listen to at times.
Yeah, I agree. You know, just to be clear, I didn't come into this sort of jaded. I did a podcast back at the end of 2023. I think it was my second ever podcast that was called WSX Domination, because I actually thought that this series, you know, if done right and with time to grow, could turn out to be the premier series in the world and surpass the AMA Supercross, again, if done right. You know, there's a lot of positives about it. I love the idea that they visit places that, you know, don't have an ingrained local series or access to Supercross, you know, like America or Australia, to grow the sport. I think, you know, that the premise behind it is fantastic. But this year, you know, I felt like this was going to be the first year that they really had the opportunity to get that finished product, sort of a sense of that finished product. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think looking at Buenos Aires, it wasn't it.
No, and I think we'll have to give them a bit of a chance, give them a couple of rounds and see. Obviously, being the first round, new team together, there would be a few hiccups, and I'm sure a lot of stuff they'll work on. But yeah, it's a hard one to see how the World Supercross grows to a point of ever getting bigger than America, the AMA Monster Energy Supercross, just because there is a lot of other competition in this time of the year to pull all the riders together. You're always going to have the US teams not wanting to give up all their riders
Yep.
and not take the risk with them. You've got the competition with, well, they had the German Supercross on the weekend. There's a couple of riders that would have actually been quite handy and would have filled out the field in WSX a little more if they were over there. Leclerc's Cedric was over there, so Surpassed.
Supercross.
First last
Yeah.
name Supercross. He was, yeah. So there's a couple of riders missing, and then they'll head over. When's Canada? That's
Next
weeks away,
weekend.
is it?
No, next weekend.
Next weekend, and Paris on next weekend too, isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So you've got that clash again where you're going to lose. I think there's just too many big one-off events to try and work around to really pull the riders they need. And like the lineup they had this weekend was good. I think the Australian round is probably going to be the best in terms of
The talent.
lineup with having how deep the talent's going to be there. But again, the talent could have been even deeper if it wasn't clashing with the Adelaide round and you pulled a few of those top Aussie guys across to that race as well. So
yeah,
it's going to be a hard one for them.
Yeah, well, let's break it down a little bit. So we'll start with the schedule because that's sort of the Band-Aid that you've ripped off. I think the schedule is pretty good. I think they've got Buenos Aires in Canada back to back, and then they've got a 1 week gap, and then they've got the Gold Coast, Sweden,
and South Africa.
Yeah, and then wrapping it up in South Africa. So all consecutive weekends. So that side of things I think is pretty good. Like I like a series that is consecutive. It keeps the momentum rolling. You know, it's good to follow. It's easy to follow. You sort of don't forget where it's at by the time the next round rolls around. And I think it's a pretty good spread, you know, as far as a world championship goes. They're going to a lot of very different places.
It is quite spread out too, isn't it? To go from Australia, then to Sweden, then to South Africa, there's a little bit of travel involved.
Oh, massively. I mean, and that sort of leads me to my next point. If you're going to go to places like South Africa and Buenos Aires, which are effectively, you know, a little bit, I won't say necessarily third world, but second world, so a lower socioeconomic places. Yeah, I think, you know, they have to do better than they did in Buenos Aires. That venue, like those stands were scaffolding, temporary scaff. They didn't even have seats. They were just benches. And I had to laugh when they got Tom Burwell in to talk to Daniel Blair and Jeff Emig, because he made a comment that there's not a seat in the house. And, you know, he was referring obviously to the fact that it sold out, but it was also literally true. There wasn't a seat in the house because they were just benches, basically scaffolding benches. And I think if you're going to go to these places and promote yourselves as a World Supercross Championship, I think they have to do better. Like, they've got to pick, I guess, the best stadium in that part of the world, and that wasn't it.
No, I wasn't too like when on the lead up. I've seen some of the footage. It's like, well, it's just an empty oval, and I've seen one temporary stand. It's like, oh, okay, so we're going to be standing and then one temporary stand. But I actually don't mind the fact that I've gone to putting temporary stands the whole way across, which was pretty much just like it looked like a local soccer pitch. Yeah, I guess in terms of it being a world championship and being the best of the best, it probably doesn't look. It's not the exact look you're going for, but I think it sort of worked in a way that they put the temporary stands up, which then put the temporary lights behind the stands, which looked like the track was pretty well lit. Yes, it's not perfect, but you know what? Maybe it's a cheaper way of doing it. Maybe it's a way things might need to go with some of these rounds, and maybe it's something that could work in Australia. If you could get 8,000 to 10,000 temporary seating with stands and be cheaper than hiring an NRL or an AFL venue to get that many people around it.
Do you reckon it was that many though? I mean, we're selling out stadiums now with 15,000 seats.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I've got no idea how many people were in those stands.
I didn't feel like it was, you know, if you were saying 8,000, I think that might have been absolutely pushing it.
Yep. And it could have been, I have no real eye for how many people were in those stands, but they looked like they were decent sized stands.
Yeah.
And maybe it was only 2,000 or 3,000 people there. I'm not 100% sure, but the other problem was the stands were that far back. You didn't really get a sense of and there was no camera work that was actually pointing towards the stands and getting a reaction of people in the stands until virtually after the racing had finished. So you didn't really get a feel or a vibe of how things were actually going at the venue.
Yeah. And I mean, that sort of setup, I think, would be absolutely sweet for a non-premier level event. Whether it's a regional championship or a state championship or something like that. But, I mean, in terms of the hierarchy, you've obviously got the AMA Supercross, which is the biggest Supercross series in the world. Typically, you've had World Supercross closely followed by the Australian Supercross series. But, it's something that I'll actually have some questions for you a bit later. But, for me, it lacked that premier event feel. It looked like a regional event. I thought it was pretty dark in there. The riders didn't complain, so obviously there was plenty of lighting. But yeah, it seemed a bit dim, like the whole thing. And
I reckon I said that to Jaden halfway through watching. It's like just the angles from the TV made it look like it wasn't, like you could tell it was bright enough, but it looked like they had a camera down each end of the track, and it was hard to gauge what the lighting was really like, what the track was really like.
They had very few cameras too. Like I noticed that there was maybe 4 camera points.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've probably been, well, obviously American stuff is unreal with their camera angles. Even their race day live camera angles were better than what the racing at World Supercross is.
Yes.
So you sit back and watch race day live and get a feel for the track and the angles, and we did tonight early today watching World Supercross.
Yeah.
And the Australian production is a lot better than World Supercross at the moment too.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, you're really expecting to lift that a little bit going into the next few rounds.
You'd hope so. You'd definitely hope so. As far as the track goes, though, I thought the track was good. It was wide. It was a decent length, like good lap times, 50, low 50s. And I don't know, that the photos that they posted early on looked like there was very little dirt and the obstacles were tiny. But, I mean, on the telecast at least, it looked like they were reasonable.
Yeah, I enjoyed the layout of the track. It looked like the combination, there wasn't really much to separate the guys, but the layout looked good. The jumps looked good. They look, as you said, early in the week, they did look small in some of the photos, but watching the bikes get around, they looked like they were a decent sized jump. I think the biggest problem they had with the track was the amount of
moisture that was coming up
in the air, making the track so slick, which sort of made the track a little bit one-lined. You couldn't really dive underneath and go tight in the corner, then try and get out and get underneath another rider. It sort of, you had to make a block pass to make a pass, and then hope you didn't spin up too much on the exit of the corner to make it stick. So in that regards, the track wasn't the best, but the actual layout and the way it flowed was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. And it just looked like the traction sort of deteriorated as the night went on. It looked like it was super cold. I don't know if you saw, like the Monster Energy girls and stuff in the background had big, thick jackets on. And even when they panned across the crowd, people were rugged up. So I think it was a similar situation to what we had in Newcastle in 23 for the Supercross. I think as the evening got colder, that moisture was probably just drawing up and the track's packing down, and it's just creating a lot of slippery spots where it's sort of hard pack.
Yeah, I think a few of the riders said that. I think it might have been Roxney said even the blue groove parts, normally when it gets blue groove, we'll get a bit of tack through there, but it was the moisture coming through was making the blue groove parts even slipperier again. So the main line was getting more and more slippery throughout the race.
Yep. I thought the track was good, and it made for some pretty good racing. In terms of the rider lineup, like the PR leading up to the event actually got me pretty excited. They've been absolutely flogging the PR, and it's been really good quality. All the promotional stuff on social media. But like when the event rolled around and you start to see how it plays out, for a start, the numbers on the gate for me, I think there was 14 in the SX2 class and 16 in the SX1 class. That to me actually turned out to be pretty underwhelming. And the talent on paper when they were promoting the event looks really good. But I think as a whole, when you look at the riders that are competing through the whole championship, The wildcards really do sort of create a bit of a positive buffer, but it's not as impressive, I think, as a field as I was, as the PR got me sort of salivating for.
And I think the SX1 class tonight had a good rider lineup. There was a lot to look forward to in the SX1 class. But the SX2 class, it dropped away. Anstey was just in a world of his own. There was nobody even close to him, really.
Yep.
And then obviously you had McElrath, and then it sort of dropped away pretty quick. I think you had guys like Shock, might have been a bit of a name, and that's about it, really. It was a really lackluster lineup for the SX2 class. And as you said, only 14 riders.
Yeah. It really robs the event of that lead up, that anticipation that you get through heat races and LCQ. It's basically like you've got a small number of riders on the track, which limits the amount of stuff that's going on. But in terms of building that excitement, also, it just seemed like, all right, the event started, we're going straight into race one.
Yeah, I got that feel as well. You're watching it, and I sort of like the concept of 2 short races, 1 long race, and just having finals. In theory, you'd think it'd work, but I think to have that, you really need a good, strong rider lineup.
Yes, yep.
Otherwise, you'd just about rather see the heats and the LCQs just to have a bit of a mix up on what's going on for the night. Whereas the way this panned out there, Essex, there was some good racing, but there was nothing to really get excited about. And then they start talking about how a lot of these guys are wildcards. So to look for the championship and for the guys actually in the points, you've got to look further back through the field.
Yes.
So there's a lot of sort of not unnecessary riders out there, but people earning points tonight that really aren't going to be in the championship. It sort of makes it a little confusing in ways. Well, I guess that's sort of what it is.
We were both sort of super critical of it last year with the WSX Open being the last round of the Australian series, where having those international riders sort of robbed the build-up of the whole championship. And I almost feel like that is what they've done with WSX now, but for every round.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, every round you're going to have some guys come in and take away those top points.
Because the wildcards are really good riders.
Yeah, that's it. The wildcards are virtually going to be coming in and winning the races.
Yes, yep. And it kind of robs the prestige of the guys that you've got racing the series.
And the other scary thing is, if you look at some of the wildcards, I guess you have 5 rounds on. It probably won't happen, but you could possibly have a wild card come in and do 2 rounds, earn enough points, and get close to the podium at the end of the year.
That'd be interesting. That'd be definitely.
At least finish in the top 5.
Yeah, and then they're not even there at the final round.
Yeah, exactly.
What happens there?
You could have your points leader come into the final round not even rocking up because it was just a wild card for a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Roxon's a wild card or if he's...
No, he's doing the series.
He's doing the series.
Yeah.
Even the way they were talking on the broadcast, they weren't 100% sure. But then again,
it's Ken Roxon, though. You never know what's going to happen. He might
pull out.
He's definitely there for the long haul. In terms of the format too, the way that they awarded the points was interesting.
I didn't mind it. I don't mind putting less emphasis on the shorter races and then making your final race count towards more. It was 10 points for the 2 shorter races. There was a maximum of 10 points, and it just went down by 1 point each position, so only your top 10 could score a point. And then for the final race, it went back to your traditional scoring. 25, 20, 22.
Yep.
So there wasn't much. You weren't actually building much of a points gap by winning the first 2 races. Like after the first 2 races, obviously Anstey won the first 2 SX races easily, but you only had 3 points.
Yes.
3-point rating on McElrath after the first 2 races. But then the last race, you got the 25 to 20, so he pulls most of his points gap for the series in that race.
It's an interesting format. I'll be curious to see sort of how it starts to play out after a few rounds to see how those gaps go and whether it makes for an exciting championship. I don't dig that, even when you've got a small gate like 14 or 16, that there's 4 or 6 guys in those first races that aren't getting any points. I think the points have to go back further in the field, even if they are 8-minute races. I don't know. I think, one bad moto can impact you really, really badly in such a
Yeah,
short championship.
it's a bit of a strange one because if you say you finish out of the points, say you finished 11th in that the first two races, you're only losing 10 points to the race winner. Yeah, in each race. If you finish 11th in the main race, you actually lose more points to you lose 13 points to the race leader. So you actually still lose more points by finishing 11th in the final race than you do the first two by scoring 0 points.
Yeah.
So it is a bit of a weird one. But yeah, even if they went, I guess not ideal world, they'd either have a limit their gates to either 16 or 18 or whatever number they want to limit it to, and just have everybody score a point. So if it's 18 riders, you've got 18 through to 1 point.
Yeah.
For the first two sprint races, then maybe give the bonus points with the usual point system in the last race just to make it a little bit different.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to, I think if you've got a Premier Series, which is what they're trying to do this as, mate, for me, 14 riders on the gate doesn't cut it.
Yeah, and you're talking 14 riders total, so you're not talking about going through heats and qualifying
Yeah.
to get down to 14. You're starting with 14 SX2 riders.
Yeah. The goal should be 20 riders on the gate. I think that's what they should be aiming for, and 14 is a long way from that.
The one thing I did like about having less riders on the gate and the shorter races was it takes the lappers out of the equation. And if you could build it to the point where your 14 or 16 riders were all high, good enough quality to not be getting close to lapped in a 12-minute race or a 12-lap race, I think that sort of makes things a
That
little
would be
more
cool.
interesting as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
If they're bunched up.
I think maybe the last SX1 race, I think Roxon may have lapped a couple of guys at the back of the field. But we didn't have to worry about lappers getting in the way or make it having an impact on the race whatsoever.
Yep.
Or the points. So that part was one of the positives anyway.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And, as far as the talent goes, you obviously had the leaders in both races, like both classes, run away with it. But there was some really good battles and some good racing after that. Unfortunately, I think the lack of traction impacted that a little bit in terms of, how wild riders were going to get to try go for a pass. And especially in those first two races, when you've only got 1 point different, how much are you going to risk for 1 point?
Well, yeah, exactly. And there was some good passing out there, but it's you actually needed to get up the inside of somebody, cut their line and go, which I guess is sort of Supercross to a T anyway. The best pass of the night was when Christian Craig tried to go around the outside of Matt Moss.
Yeah.
We all knew that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't dirty or anything. And I honestly don't think Moss could have pulled up any harder anyway because of how slick the track was.
Yes.
But yeah, Christian Craig obviously made it known when he did get him back past a couple of laps later.
I was watching it with a friend, and I just finished telling him that I didn't think that Christian Craig sort of had that type of aggression in him. And then, he gave it to Matt Moss. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I guess, again, I think that's about the only way you could really pass people and on the track was sort of run underneath them and run wide just to make sure you both didn't get any momentum out of the corner.
In terms of the results, with Ken Roxon and Max Anstey, and even how they sort of played out after that, and we can sort of break that down a little bit, I felt, when you look at the riders on the gate, it was kind of predictable. It's easy to say, obviously, in hindsight.
I thought somebody might have got closer to Roxon. He was actually very impressive.
Yeah,
super impressive because there's a couple of decent riders in that class.
Yeah, and they mentioned in the broadcast like multiple times that he'd been sick all week, and and he even spoke about it when they interviewed him that he was just taking it race by race, and even he surprised himself at how well he felt in that first race.
Yeah,
because he wasn't sure if he was even going to be able to race.
And he was literally putting times down a second quicker than anybody else. And he had Justin Cooper out there. Obviously, it was Deegan's first ride on a 450, so that was going to be a bit of an unknown. But Anderson, Savachi, Christian Craig, and he was gapping these guys easily.
Yeah.
And did it. Roxon always sort of makes it look easy anyway, but he really did make those wins look pretty simple.
Yeah. Well, before we break down the results, one more thing I wanted to talk about, the Starks. You know, it's the first time we've seen electric bikes racing a, quote, Premier Series, especially for Supercross. I was expecting them, you know, even with the silent assassin, Vince Freeze, to do better. Like Vince Freeze last year was battling with Ken Roxon in some of the races. And I was 100% expecting the same thing with him on a Stark, you know, but maybe with him being even more of a menace. But the Starks just, they didn't look like they delivered. They looked like they were really struggling out there. Awesome starts, but beyond that, they just went backwards.
Yeah, and even the start, well, I don't know if Vince got hurt. It looks like he had a decent crash in either practice or qualifying through the whoops. So I'm not sure if he was injured or he was off or what. He didn't even line up for the last one. I'm not sure if it was a bike problem or, I don't know, maybe the battery went flat or something. I was expecting a bit more, especially off the starts. I think the SX2 class, they were a little bit more seen off the starts. I think, Michael Hicks had a couple of good rides when he ran up front for a little while.
Yep.
Again, it's hard to really tell. It would have been good to see maybe a couple of different riders on those bikes. I think it was Hicks who was getting through the whoops reasonably well on them.
Yes.
But yeah, maybe to see, like, maybe have a Cole Thompson or a Cody Shock or a name like that on one of the bikes, a bit of a more well-known name, and somebody who runs up front in America a little bit more on those bikes would have been good to see. Just a bit more of a, I don't know,
a run.
Understanding of,
Yep.
yeah, a bit more of a run, and knowing that the rider, it wasn't so much the bike, it was like they had a rider that was capable. I think Freeze would have been that rider, but yeah, he just didn't seem to be with it tonight for one reason or another.
Yeah, and then he obviously missed out on the final moto as well. For whatever reason, he wasn't on the gate, and you could see him working on the bike behind the gate, and yeah, he missed the start.
Yeah, and look, it is good to see him out there, and I'm sure as they get better known riders on him, and we see him out there a bit more, I'm sure they'll start to do better. But yeah, at least it's good that they're out there, and it gives everybody a bit of a baseline of what their potential is, and maybe take away some of the fear that these bikes are actually going to be 250 and 450 killers, and everybody's going to end up on one.
Yeah, I definitely had that fear.
Yeah, I think a lot of people expect them to come out of the corner 1-2 in every race and then sort of hold things up. But yeah, it definitely wasn't like that at all.
No, it wasn't.
But then again, if you put somebody who qualified fastest on one or was in qualified top 3 and had a better gate pick, maybe it's a different scenario.
Yeah, it was hilarious with Max Anstey too, where they asked him about that, and he said, you know, Shane McElrath was behind him, and I could hear Shane, and then he goes, and then I just had a feeling that there was someone else.
Yeah, wasn't sure if it was my shadow or something else.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, I think in the grand scheme of things, longer term, you know, I would love to see them have their own class, and you know, the combustion engines stay combustion engines. But, you know, at this point, I think it's a perfect sort of proving ground and testing ground to develop the technology. So I don't mind having, 2 or 3 Starks in there. I think it makes it interesting. It's a good storyline. And, you know, whatever happens, whether good, bad, or indifferent, it's interesting to watch the progression.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting to see where things go and how they improve. And you're right. I think it could be the series where you could just about introduce, if you wanted to put a third class into that series, a Stark or an electric class might be a way for WSX to sort of separate themselves a bit too.
Yeah, I totally agree. That would be very cool.
And then, yeah, maybe you do get go back to the old days where maybe it's a couple of guys instead of doing one class, hop on a second bike for the weekend.
Yeah. Obviously, if that sort of racing develops and it makes for good racing, it's a win-win for Stark. And it's also a platform for other manufacturers to start introducing electric bikes to those levels.
Well, I guess that's what Honda have already. Well, they had, All Japan was last year that they had their
last year
bike race, the 450 class, and obviously Yamaha have just soft launched theirs at the Emica.
Yep.
So these other manufacturers are starting to build. So yeah, maybe in the next year or two, this is the proving ground for them. Maybe they have an all electric class. Yamaha, Honda, Stark can all bring their bikes out.
Well, they're going to have Starks racing the AMA series next year. Apparently, that's all been approved now.
Well, that's going to be very interesting then.
Yep. And again, very dependent on who's on the bike.
Yeah, it's always going to come down to that.
Yeah.
I think if you chucked a Jet or a Hunter or even a Roxon or somebody like that on one of those bikes, you're probably going to see him up front.
Yeah. The interesting thing with the AMA, which is different to this series though, and it's been sort of the kryptonite of the Starks, is will they last a 20-minute main with with that type of rider? From everything I've heard, the bikes, that's why they're not racing Supercross in Australia and they haven't raced in the AMA yet, is because the technology isn't quite there. And like you sort of said, WSX could be that perfect development and proving ground because the mains are slightly shorter. And with that format, you can charge the bike in between or, potentially with these factory guys, have a bike where you can swap out the battery.
Yeah. And that's why I think it needs to sort of get to a point where the batteries are easy enough to swap out, especially if you've got a half hour between a couple of motos, and that's where it will sort of end up at. But yeah, it's going to be, see if they can actually last a 20-minute moto is probably going to be the biggest thing. I guess the SX2 class with their shorter races might be the place we see them pop up first.
Yeah, for sure. Yo, we hope you're enjoying the show. Here at Mental4Moto, we can only do what we do because of the sponsors who support us. So please stay tuned for a couple of brief ads and make sure you show these legends some love. Are you getting arm pump? Fatiguing after just a few laps? Or feel like you're often fighting against your bike? Today's motorcycles have been designed and built to suit a broad range of riders, conditions and riding styles. This one-size-fits-all approach, however, means that when it comes to your own riding, your bike is often not handling and performing at its very best. Whether you're a weekend warrior or an elite level racer, Fastline suspension will help you unlock your riding potential by ensuring your bike is set up perfectly for your specific needs. And with the right setup, you're guaranteed to go faster, fatigue less, and ultimately have more fun riding your motorcycle. So what are you waiting for? Contact Adam at Fastline Suspension now. Fastline Suspension, set up for maximum performance, precision tuned for you. Whether you're out on the road, playing in the dirt, or on the water, Wonthaggi Motorcycles and Power Equipment have got you covered with their great range of motorcycles, marine, and outdoor power equipment. Servicing South Gippsland for over 25 years, their friendly and knowledgeable staff pride themselves on being able to deliver the highest level of service. Stocking a full range of Kawasaki and Honda off-road, dirt and adventure motorcycles, kids bikes, ATVs, riding gear, consumables and hard parts, Wonthaggi Motorcycles and Power Equipment are your one-stop shop when it comes to having fun. The warmer months are nearly here, and there's nothing more refreshing after a day at the track when you're sweaty, grimy and exhausted than taking a dip in the pool. Southeast Pools specialise in building high-quality fiberglass and concrete swimming pools across the Peninsula and Gippsland region and offer a range of designs to suit every lifestyle, yard size and budget. So pick up that phone, give Trav at Southeast Pools a call today and be ready to take the plunge this summer. At Mental4Moto, our mission is to give the unsung heroes of Aussie motocross a voice. From grassroots racing right through to the biggest events in the country, sharing the stories you won't hear anywhere else. From the privateer chasing the dream, to the junior rider who is pushing for their first win, the mechanic who works late into the night to get the bike ready for race day, to the track builder who turns a pile of dirt into a work of art. This is the beating heart of our sport. We're able to bring these stories every week to thousands of Aussie Moto fans thanks to the generous sponsors who share our vision. If you're interested in the advertising packages that we have available, or just want to show your support, please check out our website, www.mental4moto.com/partnerships, and we can tailor a package to suit your needs. Now, let's get on with the show. Well, let's have a quick look at some of the results. We'll start with the SX1 class. We've already sort of spoken about Ken Roxon. Justin Cooper in second place is a wild card, so not there for the championship, but probably where I would expect him. I thought he might have given Ken a bit more of a run. He did super well last year in this year, I should say, in the AMA Supercross.
He looked like he was just losing the speed in the whoops. There was a big difference through there. And I think Justin was the only one who ended up started jumping through him in that final race.
Yep.
But no, he looked good, but yeah, he just didn't have, nobody had Ken's pace.
Yeah, he was on another level.
And when you look at the championship points, you take, obviously, the two wildcards finished second and third. So all of a sudden, Craig has lost a lot of points to Roxon.
Yes.
In the round. So two guys are only going to rock up maybe one more time each.
Yeah. these wildcards could potentially destroy that championship vibe before it's even started. Really,
It's funny. It's gonna be the wild cards are the ones that bring the people through the gates, but they might be the ones that make the last round a little bit boring.
it's all. I almost feel like the points system almost has to account for wildcards, so they get event points but not championship points. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't even know who the wild cards are going into next round in Canada. I'm not sure who rocks up for Canada.
Yeah,
Deegan and I think maybe Justin Cooper's doing Canada, is he?
yeah. I think he's doing Buenos Aires in Canada, and then Australia is Eli Tomac, and he's doing 2 rounds. Hayden Deegan's doing Buenos Aires and Australia.
Yep.
So
Cooper Webb's doing just Australia.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, Tomac's doing Canada and Australia. So Tomac's there next week.
That'd
be
interesting.
actually cool. Yeah.
Well, the
actually take some points away from Ken.
you would think so. It's going to be awesome to see Eli Tomac on the KTM. I mean, just to digress a little bit, they had the press release this week for him joining the team, and the first footage come out of him riding the bike.
He looks so good.
He looks so good.
Very good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I know it's always hard to tell from those early press stuff, but this the way there was that footage of him hitting the rhythm section, and he's just downsided everything silky smooth. It was just, I honestly watched it 5 or 6 times in a row. It was so good to watch.
And even the way he gets through the whoops, which has been, one of the, I think, more difficult things on the European bikes.
Yep.
Just smashes them. Yep.
Again, it's their test track, and the whoops could be slightly smaller or slightly different shape. You're just not 100% sure, but yeah, he looked unreal through them.
Yep, he looks comfy.
Yeah, but they also look reasonably good through them, so you have to wonder how big they were.
But, I mean, if you hear what Prado said, like he hasn't even touched the clickers on that thing. He said it was like coming home. As soon as he was on it, he was comfortable. And already on day one, way more comfortable than he ever was on the Cowie. So obviously he's going to be justifying his lack of good results on the Cowie a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'll never know until the gate drops for real. But like you said, he looked already a lot better on it. And yeah, he was talking the talk.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see what happens when A1 rolls around. I think he'll be good. I think he'll definitely be better than he was this year. But
yes. Yeah, he can only go up. So
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but from what we've seen, I think, Tomac's going to be... I think seeing him in Canada is going to give us a better understanding of how comfortable he really is on that KTM already.
Yeah. All right, the next wildcard finishing 3rd overall in the SX1 class, and I got sick of the way that they were blowing him through the whole telecast, was Hayden Deegan. I've got some thoughts here, but what were your thoughts first?
I was impressed. I don't know if he can continue to ride a 450 for like that long term. But then again, it does remind us sort of early Tomac days on a 450. He blew every outside tough block off the track. Just the way he was railing. From what he said in the post-race interviews, he went through a clutch every race.
Yeah.
Which is incredible for a guy who's just on a 450. And the way he was throwing that bike off every single jump, the triple and the finish line double, he was throwing a solid whip or scrub off of that every single lap. He looked intense on it. His speed, it was good. Obviously, it was off of a little bit off of Justin Cooper and a fair way off Ken Roxon. But for his first race on a 450, that was it was impressive, but still showed he's got a fair way to go.
Yes, yeah. I don't know. I think the hype from the event, that they were giving him, it was over the top. I thought he was good, but definitely not great. The style is sick to watch, where he's throwing it sideways. And even the berm blasting that he was doing, I felt like he was showboating for the crowd, which is great, but it's not going to win him races. And like realistically, I'm a bit of a stats guy. In the final moto, which is a 12-lap race, he was 21 seconds and change behind Ken Roxon. And I think 14 and 18 seconds back in the 8-lap races. Like if you blow that out to a 20-minute AMA main, which is, 25 laps, 26 laps sometimes,
On that, that track probably would have been 24 to 25 laps. Yeah.
Yep. That's going to get him lapped by the Lawrences and whoever's up the front.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have been far off it. No. No, the first two races, I sort of felt bad for him because obviously they didn't understand how the gate pick worked, and he ended up with, instead of the seventh gate pick, was starting from last gate pick in the far outside. So he done well in that last race to actually get a decent start. But still to come away and heads up beat Christian Craig and Jason Anderson and Savachi. They're all guys you'd expect to be around the top 10 in the AMA 450 class. Yeah, top 10 to 15. Anderson you'd put as a regular top 10. He had his own issues with starts and getting caught up with stuff early in races.
Yeah, but it's also his first ride on the Suzuki, first race.
Yeah.
And he's had Moto off.
He's been off for a half a year, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it was too bad from being off. I think in terms of where he could have finished, I think sort of third's perfect for him. So all the Deegan lovers are going to be happy because he's on the podium and he rode well. And all the Deegan haters are sort of having to sit there and go, well, it was third, but it was a long way off Ken.
Yeah.
I think he sort of put himself in the perfect place to keep everybody happy.
If he had finished behind Christian Craig or Jason Anderson or Joey Savachi, that would have been, in his own mind, the biggest buzzkill ever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if he didn't finish in front of those guys, that would have been a massive issue. So, like I said, I think he was good, but he's got a long way to go. And for any clown saying that he's going to, come and stamp his authority on the AMA 450 class or beat Jet and Hunter and Eli Tomac and Chase Sexton, stop it. Like, stop it.
He's got a
long way to go. He might get there, but he has got a long way to go before he gets there.
I have no doubt he'll get the way he rides. I think he'll get there, and he's just his determination. I think he will get him there. I think he's got looks like he needs to really learn how to ride a 450 to its potential. Obviously, he couldn't hear the bikes too well from the telecast tonight. From what the commentators were saying, he was riding it like a 250. He was on the limiter. He was throwing around like a little bike. And again, he went through a clutch each race in short races, which again sounds like he's really trying to get more than he really needs to out of the bike out of each corner. He's probably losing corner speed on trying to ride it like that. So, I think once he smooths it out and learns how to ride a 450, I don't think it will take him too long to get to a point where he is challenging for podiums. But there's no way he's going to go out and wax the Lawrences or a Tomac or a Sexton. That's not good. Even if he gets to his absolute 100% best, you're not waxing those guys. You're going to be good enough just to run with them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think riding a bike like that isn't the way to do it. The way he rides the 250, like you think about that, what they were saying, he was absolutely waxing the clutch in one moto, like an 8-lap race or less than 8 minutes. I mean, if he's doing that in an 8-lap race, get him to a 20-minute main.
And the bike's not lasting.
Or a 30-minute moto, the bike's not going to last.
No, exactly. So he's going to have to change his riding style and the way he rides that bike pretty drastically.
Yeah.
But he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think he's got the right people around him. He's got the skills. So.
Yeah. I mean, the bit that frustrated me about it wasn't actually him. It was the way that they were presenting him. It was like he went 1-1-1, on the day. It's like, like I said, I think he finished up. It was a good ride. It was a solid start to his 450 campaign. And I hope he races 450 moving into the AMA Supercross. I think it would be a waste for him to go back to the 250 class. But keep it in your pants, That's
I think if you went back and watched the telecast and you were playing a drinking game and you drank every time they said either Deegan or Stark, you wouldn't have got up off the couch at the end of the night. you wouldn't have made the last race.
Totally agree. We won't break down sort of every result. Jason Anderson, I did want to sort of talk about him a little bit. I think he looks fantastic on the Suzuki. The Suzukis look awesome. I just...
They do.
Something about that yellow bike. And like you said, for him having half a year off, coming back 5th overall, definitely getting better through the night. I'm excited to see him moving forward.
Yeah, he had a bit of bad luck in that first race. I think he went down in the second corner. The second race, he came through the pack and finished third. He was looking really good. I actually thought he might have done a little bit more in that last race because he got into fourth just behind Deegan at the start. And that's sort of what impressed me about Deegan a little
Deegan,
bit was,
yes.
yeah, he sort of, I was expecting him to pass Deegan and get into third spot, which would have given him third for the, yeah, I think it would have done. It would have given him third for the round. But, yeah, he just sort of drifted off the back and sort of lobbed in between Deegan and Christian Craig in that race.
Yep.
But yeah, no, he still did look good. I think by the time we get to A1, he's got some more time on that bike. He was looking really good.
Yep. And Matt Moss, 9th overall, some cracking starts, went backwards from there. Mate, for a guy with a bung hip that doesn't feel comfortable on the Cowie, he's going all right.
Yeah, no, I thought he was pretty solid. That first race, he ran up near I think he was in fourth for a little while and then slowly slipped his way back. And again, it's another one of those things where he's lost quite a few points to 2 wildcards. Like, he finished 9th for the 9th, it would have put him to 7th, but it would have probably kept him in touch with a half a podium chance for the series.
Yeah.
But you lose all those extra points and it's just not going to happen. But no, he looks pretty solid out there, coming off his Indian Supercross Racing League win. So it's good to see him floating all around the world.
Yeah. Was there anyone else in SX1 that caught your eye?
Not really. Savachi didn't have the night he was probably hoping for. He looked good in the first moto, and even the second moto he looked good. But he got stuck at the back in the third one and just couldn't make his way through the field. I was probably expecting a bit more out of Justin Hill. He didn't really seem to do too much. But apart from that, no, not really. That's, again, you get to virtually Savachi, and then the names become more of your
back
mid
markers.
to back. Yeah, LCQ riders from the AMA pretty much after that.
Yeah, very much.
I was going to say, not that they're bad riders, but just when you're comparing them to the likes of Roxon and Cooper, yeah, they're a fair way off the pace.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not the depth of field that I was sort of anticipating.
It's a tough one because if you take the top 2 or 3 guys out of those fields, you're not going to have the names, but you're probably going to have better racing. So do you rely on the better racing to pull your crowds, or do you rely on these couple of names to bring the people in and then they flog everybody?
I tend to think that you can have both. For me, I think the thing that will make it confusing and ultimately detract from the championship is having these high-level wildcards at every round. I guess the benefit to it is they get the bums on seats, but it's like they're playing spoiler every time they hit the track as well.
Yeah. Well, wildcards in terms of Canada's got 2, but it looks like the last round there's no wildcards at the last round in South Africa.
It's because no one wants to go to South Africa.
True. And it doesn't look like there's any wildcards in the last 2 rounds. So I guess at least by the time they get through Sweden, their points should be pretty well. Everybody should know what's happening going into the last round.
Yeah. Well, when you look at it, I guess, in this case, so if Ken Roxon, something was to happen to him early in this series, really, you've got
Christian Craig, Anderson, Savachi.
I mean, awesome riders, but still not that elite level talent.
No, I think it's again. I think that's always going to be the trouble for WSX. They're never gonna be able to pull the 4 or 5 elite level riders away to do this whole series. So I think your Craigs, your Andersons, and your Savachis are pretty much you got
Where
10
it's
at the moment. But once Ken goes, yeah, I think that's pretty much where it's going to be at. You're pretty much going to have your Craigs and your Savachis are the ones who should be vying for this title from round 1 to the final round.
Either that, or they've got to. I think they've got to cater their championship to be able to accommodate your guys that are current wildcards, like your Deegans, your Coopers, your Tomacs, at every round, so that they do become part of the championship.
Yeah.
Like maybe that means dropping it back to 3 rounds and having a championship with the very best riders.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, SX2. Max Anstey. I think I expected Max Anstey to win, but I feel like he rode better. Like, he looked great out there.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to be sort of dominating Shane McElrath.
No, neither did I. I thought, especially that last race when McElrath got in behind him, I thought it was going to be a fight to the line, but He's looking like he's coming into next year on a really high level again. And I just hope he stays fit and healthy because he's got every chance to win a World Supercross and back it up with an American Supercross title too.
Yep,
Yeah, he looks
definitely.
fantastic out there.
Shane McElrath, Quadlock Honda, he's carrying on from last year, carrying the number one plate, but he just didn't look comfortable. What do you put that down
No,
to? Is it the track? Is it the bike? Like the bike
well,
looked twitchy, and he just didn't look comfortable.
no, in that first race, I think he come through the field a little bit in the first race. The second race, he looked comfortable, and I think he was actually slowly gaining on Max in that second race. But yeah, I don't know what happened in the last one. He didn't look quite as comfortable. And who was it? He just about went around the outside of him. Lopes nearly went around the outside of him twice through the whoops. Where Shane's normally pretty handy through the whoops. So there was something a little bit off, definitely in that last race. But I think we'll have to wait and see till we get the next couple of tracks and see what the dirt's like. I think maybe if it wasn't as slick, maybe it suits him a little bit more. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it's 100% over yet. But it's going to be hard to beat Max.
Yeah, he didn't seem happy either, McElrath. Like when they spoke to him on the telecast, he just didn't seem, usually whether his race has gone good or bad, he's usually smiling and, he puts on a brave face. He just didn't look happy to me.
No, that's true. He's normally a little bit more upbeat.
Yeah, 100%. Cody Schock, super impressive. I was really hoping he would be racing the Australian Series this year. I had him pegged as maybe one of the riders for CDR Yamaha.
Yep.
But obviously, yeah, he was committed to WSX. But awesome talent, and he's putting it up there. Normally rides for Club Yamaha in the States. To be up there behind Max Anstey and Shane McElrath, it's going to get some eyes on him, and because normally he's sort of the best of the privateers.
Yeah. Yeah, like he was good. I think he might have had issues as well at the start of both the first two races. He was a little bit further back than I thought he might be.
Yep.
I think he got to fourth or fifth. And then in that last race, he showed what he could do. And again, he's still a couple of steps off of Anstey.
Yes.
And when you put the Americans in,
Big
the
steps.
rest of the top Americans in between it is a bit of a gap. But I didn't realise he's that old as well. I think he's 28.
He's been around for a while.
But it's good. I think that's the type of quality rider the series needs to keep it going, though.
Well, you could say the same thing about Cole Thompson, finished fourth on the green bike now, came and raced for the first time on the Empire Cowie at Cronulla in the WSX series. Then he's gone over there to race World Supercross for Ven and Bud Racing Kawasaki. He looks good on green, and I think he's getting better every time he rides.
Yeah, he's coming back for a couple more rounds. He'll be back from Melbourne, won't he?
Yeah, he's coming for WSX, yep. And then Gold Coast.
Yeah, so yeah, it'd be good to see how much he's improved on that bike by the time he gets back to Melbourne. But I thought he would have done a little bit better at Cronulla the other week. But yeah, and it's sort of, again, it's hard to tell going from race to race when other riders aren't there. But I think if you threw the top handful of Australian riders into the mix of this WSX at the moment, it'd probably make it a lot better.
Ooh, you're jumping ahead, man. I've actually got a question about this, which you didn't know about, but no, it's, well, I think unless you've got anything else to sort of talk about with the SX2 class, I think we can actually go there.
No, I don't think there's much else through there. Like Thompson, Lopes, they're all sort of done what you expect them to do. I think Peters could have easily either finished sixth or third.
Yep.
It's that close between those guys. But yeah, I don't really think there's too much more in that SX2 class.
No, it's like you said, they're kind of those LCQ guys in the AMA, a lot of them.
Yeah, yep. And that's why obviously I was going to lead to that question, but I think the Australian SX2 class is actually deeper than the World Supercross SX2 class.
And that says a lot because I think the SX2 class in Australia is probably the weakest class in Australia. So out of the, SX1 and SX3.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think, yeah, I guess it's hard to where do you put Lux Turner compared to a Cody Schock?
Oh, Cody Schock every day of the week and twice on Sundays.
Yeah, but I think that's the hard part. You're talking about a guy who's 28 compared to a guy who's about to, how old's Turner, 19, 20?
Yeah, young.
So he's on his way up while Schock's probably already at his peak. So has Turner got that much better over the last 2 years
Oh,
and through this summer,
yep. I think sealing,
where he's
yeah.
So that's what I think you're. I don't know. I reckon you put the SX2 class in Australia. If you slid them in there, obviously McElrath is our current champ, but didn't have a great round at the opening weekend. Oh, my brain's not going to work now. Is it Turner, Kingsford, Larwood? I think the 6-2 class, like the
I'm going to stop you there because
Yeah.
you're going to jump ahead.
All
So
good.
to close out the podcast, we had the press conferences pre-season for the WSX series, and we heard Cedric Soubeyras talk about how the French viewed the Australian series. Obviously now with the bad blood in the management between the WSX and the WSX series, you know, there is going to be a lot of comparison, I think, between the two, and I think they're sort of vying for the title of the next best series. So I wanted to sort of do a little bit of a comparison because, in my opinion, in Australia so far this year, you know, obviously the series has improved every year, but our tracks so far, and we're only going off one round of World Supercross, obviously, our tracks are better. The presentation of the event, both there in terms of the branding and all the LED displays, the crowds, the venues in Australia is better.
Yep, 100%.
I think in terms of talent at the very top end, WSX probably pips us over the Australian series.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say SX1 for sure. SX2, yeah, probably the top of it. Anstey, and then you're pretty much going into our current champ anyway. And then after that, I think it's pretty equal in SX2.
Yep. So
Yep.
that was my point was I think that beyond that top level, our next level of talent probably has similar depth. Like if you piece in, like you were just doing, jumping ahead, and without any idea that I was going to go down this road. But if you piece in like our top Australian riders, I think they would do quite well in this WSX field. So what would it take, in your opinion, to make the WSX series clearly the second best series in the world? Going back to, like I said, I think our tracks are better now. Our presentation is better. The venues are better. Obviously, we're only in one country, but I'm just talking about, you know, on a apples with apples type comparison. Talent is similar. What would it take to make the Aussie series clearly the second best in the world? And I've got an idea, but I want your opinion.
I'm not. I think for just about every aspect, and again, we're only going off a one round of World Supercross, so it's hard to judge. I think it'll be another conversation to have.
Some of them will be better.
At the
Yeah.
end of the series, but I think, as I said, talent wise, you take our top 10 in points at the moment from SX2 and throw them into that World Supercross class, it makes that class probably twice as good.
And I mean, we're missing 5 factory guys in our SX2 class as well.
Yeah, and we're talking about guys like Burham, who had speed galore at the last round, obviously crashed. Birchall, Budd, Cannon, Todd, Cosford. These are all guys that could have easily ran top 3 in the SX2 class tonight.
Yes, yep. And saying that,
obviously,
we're missing Fergo, Brody Connolly, Reed Taylor. You know, there's some really good riders missing from our SX2 class at the moment as well.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what people are about to start to realise is it's taken a few years, but the resurgence of the Australian Supercross Championship is getting us to a point now where we've got an oversupply of talent in SX2, which will start slowly moving up to SX1. The hardest part to cement Aussie and Australian series over the World Supercross is going to be that the law of having a series that's in different parts of the world and finding a way to be able to bring those top extra couple of riders just to stay in. You just about think it'd be easier though to get those riders to come to Australia and stay in Australia for 2 months and have a 6-weekend series.
Yep. Well,
and just base themselves in Australia.
You've kind of led me to my point, which is I think the only thing that it would take is money. You know, and I think that's what's lacking in our Australian series, whether it's purse money or team investment in riders. I think that's the final step that we need to take, and it's been something that's been talked about for years and years and years in Australia. It's been lacking for a long time. But I think the series is big enough that some of that investment now has to go back to the riders. I think it will attract those top level privateers from potentially from the AMA and France to actually come to Australia and race. And if we can maximize that investment, we will get a couple of these top tier guys come race our whole series. And I think if we were to able to get like a Ken Roxon and a Jason Anderson racing the SX1 class, we would have the second best series in the world.
Yeah, and you virtually don't really need to bring anybody over for the SX2 class. It'd be good to have a couple of riders.
Yep.
But just about at this point, I think that's the hard part, though. I think to get the investment, you need that outside investment, where I think it's hard to pull that investment when you're talking about a series just based in Australia. Whereas by traveling the world, I guess they can get some national investment to bring these events to a one-off weekend to that country.
Okay,
I'm not sure how much money's floating around in the sport in Australia to pump back into the local scene just from the money they're pulling out of local companies and sponsors. I'm not sure. Like, I have no idea what the funds are like.
But ticket sales, like, obviously, if they can go to South America and run, let's say there was 8,000 people in that stadium, I can't imagine in that area they're going to be charging top dollar for those tickets. Like, they're not charging $150 or $200 each for those tickets like they do at Marvel. Like, ticket sales alone, that reinvestment back into the riders, like, how can they run a World Supercross series? And I don't know how they structure this financially, but there was very little external branding in the series.
Which I think made the track look boring.
Yep. So, and yet they're going to a place that's far away, with all the logistical challenges that come with that. They're not selling a heap of seats there. They're building a stadium from scratch, which was probably a little bit cheaper, and yet they're still managing. The reason they're getting these riders is because the riders are getting paid.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I don't understand how it works. And I've got no idea how much the Oz Supercross makes by going to Marvel and having X amount of spectators there, and even going to Cronulla. Like, I don't know the behind the scenes costs. I don't know if they make the money out of that or if that just covers costs and then they make the money out of having the local city pay for them to be there or that type of thing. And I'm the same with World Supercross. I've got no idea. We have no idea if it's financially viable for the next 2 or 3 years. Have they got a couple of people tipping in so much money, and how long is it going to last with these people tipping in money? It'd be interesting to know the financial situation of pretty much both series to see which one's more viable long term.
Yep.
I was going to say, I think that's sort of the interesting part at the moment. I think if World Supercross was unviable and only lasted a couple of years, all these riders are probably going to start looking for rides somewhere to make a little bit extra money over the off season.
Yep.
And they might not get the same money. They might get a little bit less money than to come to Australia, but that might be the enticement to come here.
Yeah.
I guess we're just going to wait to see if World Supercross is viable and where their income stream actually comes from.
Yeah. Well, I think with the Aussie series, and I sort of got this from reading between the lines a little bit, talking to Mick Sinclair and just things that, Adam Bailey had said. I felt like the risk in Australia was that, with the stadium half full, they sort of break even. And the risk was that they weren't going to get the bums on seats. And obviously, if you don't get the bums on seats with an event that big, you can start going backwards very quickly.
Very quickly, yep.
But if you get a sellout crowd in a stadium like Newcastle or Cronulla or Redcliffe, you're actually going to do very well. They're going to be very profitable. So that second half of the stadium getting sold out makes a massive difference. That's where their profit is.
Yep.
And I think now we are at that point in Australia where that is happening reliably. So I think reinvesting that money back now, it's safer and it's viable.
Yep. And maybe it's something that is going to happen over the next couple of years. I guess it's still somewhat early days for our series. Yep. I think it's building, but again, I've got something I've really just not sort of looked into is the financial viability of it all.
And I'm not
how that's structured. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not suggesting this is an overnight fix or that up to this point, it should have been done differently. I just think that if we want to keep building the Australian series to become to that level, and I think that is completely realistic, that's what has to sort of change in the next year, the next 2 years, is that investment starts feeding back into the riders. And that could be whether the purses or, I don't know, some sort of kickback to the team so they can support the riders that they bring in, and even the Aussie guys that they get on board.
I think that's going to be the thing to keep an eye out for the next couple of years. Obviously, with that much depth in the SX2 class, to keep these guys around and then have them step up to SX1 and still have the rides available, that money's got to come from somewhere. And hopefully we do see some reinvestment to keep these riders around. It'd be nothing worse to see the guys there's some talented riders sitting back in 7th, 8th and 9th in the championship at the moment. You'd hate to see them disappear because they're only just running inside the top 10.
Yep.
But they have some talented riders inside that top 10.
Yeah. And in terms of growth of the sport in Australia, it would suck if we got to a point where guys were getting good and every time, they reached that level, they were going off to the AMA or to the World Supercross. Because I think we're at that point where we can compete at least with the World Supercross Championship in terms of the level of the event.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Oh, like in an ideal world, especially for us.
Yep.
You'd have AMA Supercross, then the majority of the top riders and the Aussie boys who are racing over there would all come home and race the Aussie series. You have your couple of your one-off races like your German GP and your Paris, sort of work around those couple of events and have the Australian as the second big series in the world. That'd be perfect for us.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
I think it's probably the battle that's going to sort of happen over the next couple of years. I guess we're always going to need a domestic Supercross series, so I guess the Australian series has got to be around in some way, shape or form.
Yep.
But can the WSX and ASX both coexist?
I hope so.
And have a number of top riders.
As much as my view on WSX for this particular event has been not glowing. I want to see it around. It's more Supercross. It's more racing. I always want to see more racing. But I think there needs to be a balance too. I don't like where World Supercross now is, and I feel like it's very arrogant in that they have scheduled their championship on the same dates as a lot of long-standing other events. And that's where the balance needs to be made. I think they need to coordinate to make sure that their races don't overlap.
I think that's where the hard part's going to come into it, because they've got such a small window to get these. If they want to get the American riders over, such a small window to get them in and out, and then not try to clash with three or four big international races that are already sort of established. So hopefully there's some way everything can work, because the World Supercross in a lot of ways is a great idea. Seeing these races go to different parts of the world is great, but it's always going to be a tough thing having such a long American series, pulling those riders away from American motocross, especially when they've got to go back for the the super motocross at the end of the year, and then try and find some time in their very short off season to then continue racing on what's already a long year for them.
No, totally agree.
It's going to be a very interesting thing to watch pan out over the next 2 or 3 years, I think.
Yeah, totally. And the one thing that I just hope keeps happening is the sport keeps growing, because I feel like it's on the last 2 or 3 years, it's been on an upward trajectory. So as long as that keeps happening, I'll be stoked.
I will be too. I love watching my racing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that just about brings us to the end, mate. If you like this episode, don't forget to give us a positive review on your preferred podcast platform. Make sure you subscribe to Mental4Moto and More Than Moto AU, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on the next episode. Massive thanks, Az, for joining me to co-host this one. It's always a pleasure.
No, thanks for having me, mate. I'm starting to get more comfortable chatting online. And again, halfway through this, I forget we're actually is being recorded and going out anywhere. It's just like having a chat to you like we normally do. So, really enjoying it.
Much shorter than usual, though.
But I've only been on the phone for an hour and a half. I think there's been a couple of times where it's been close on 6 hours.
Yeah, yep. Mate, that's what happens when two guys that love moto start talking about moto, though.
The way to do it.
Yep. Shout out to our partners for this episode: Wonthaggi Motorcycles and Power Equipment, Fastline Suspension, Wolf Building Compliance, and the November sponsors of our motocross and supercross wall calendars, 443 Photography and Moto Cred. And keep an eye out because we're going to be announcing stuff for next year's Mental4Moto Rider Program as well, which will include some 2026 calendars. Most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. On behalf of Mental4Moto, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. Until next time, see ya.